Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm going to have no shorty. I'm going to carry on reviewing all the Image comic books. Yes, they finally started turning up. I'm generally going to review some non-Image stuff, but at the moment, this is one I have been looking forward to because it intrigued me. I don't often get really into reading blurb and background comic books before they turn up. I kind of go off just if it's got a good creator or if somebody describes a concept to me which sounds good, nice artwork, or just even throw the word anti-capitalist in and I'll pay attention to it. This one, I did read the entire blurb. It's something ridiculous, like 9 or 10 words. It described crime, violence, sex, bees, and very little else. So I was, intrigued. Mixed out with some excellent cover art, which does a very good job of messing with my mind. It's a weird little thing of somebody firing what looks to be like an automatic gun, but instead of bullet casings being ejected, it is bees from the chamber. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. It's called the Hive. They're definitely going with something here. And it really does a lot of things I like a ton of things. Stuff that I usually say is like, these are go-to ways to impress me with comic book creation, writing, and art. But when I got to the end of it, I realised it didn't quite land for me. I had to go back and reread it again, fairly quick after my original reading, to kind of figure out why. Because with so many boxes being ticked and me enjoying so much what was going on, I was struggling to convince myself why I wasn't excited for issue 2. And I'm going to get to that in a bit, but we're going to talk about all the positive stuff first. Like I said, it does a lot I like. First off, it has absolute confidence in what it's doing, and confidence in its readers to understand what it's doing. I like it when you're dropped into a story and expect to just go along for the ride. Don't get me wrong, there is something to be said for a well-laid-out origin story, build up some background, put in some exposition as long as it's handled correctly, not just people weirdly talking about the way things are and what they're doing in ways which would be absolutely unnatural in any kind of real conversation. Here we're dropped in at the end of a scene where there has been quite a lot of violence, and violence still ongoing. We introduce this idea that some people in this world can maybe control people's minds for some reason, and I don't want to get too far into that thing, but it's not really explained in a way that is satisfying, but I feel like that's intentional. If I had to guess, based on very little, I'd say queen bees can control worker drones to a certain degree, or at least that's like the mythos around how hives work, the hive mentality, as it were. And hives and bees absolutely play quite a large part in this one. It is a world full of criminals. We have literally cops and criminals and people who invest in stuff to extract money later without doing actual work, so loads of bad guys. It is also an exceptionally horny comic book. There is sex throughout, but it's all handled in such a way which doesn't feel like titillation was the point. It feels like these are just things that happen in this world, and it looks fantastic when they're doing it. I will say the artistry in it is actually very impressive. So remind me of the names. Henderson did the artwork for this one. There are times when we get very rich detail, very nice depth of colour, but also times when he just lets the page drift away. There is empty space where it's necessary, and I feel like, again, this ties into some intention in terms of storytelling, because for all of the things I like, including some fantastic dialogue and foreshadowing ideas rather than just telling you what's going on, it did still leave quite a lot to be explained, and that sense of openness and emptiness within the art, and especially the layouts, does help with that as well. Now, when I say quite a lot to be explained and quite a lot of foreshadowing being done, I feel like that is part of why I could look at it and be like, well, maybe it just didn't lay out the story well enough for me. But no, that isn't the case. There's enough there for me to grab hold of, dig my fingers into, and want to find out more of what's going on in that one. Frustratingly, the bit that kind of got left behind, to a certain degree, not 100%, was character. There is quite a few people in here with lines who get a sense that they are part of the larger story. They have dialogue. But with only a few exceptions, I don't really know who these people are. And I don't have much of a chance to sympathise with them, to empathise, to understand their struggles, and to be excited about what happens next, to try and figure out what happens next. Because they're just, at this point, all bit parts in a larger story. And while that's true of some of the plot beats being part of a larger story that's not being explained yet, I feel like you can get away with that more in a narrative. I've said before that characters should be, well, not should be. For me, it is the thing that matters the most. And I know that I'm not every person. I know that not everyone writes things for my particular taste. But I do feel like in this one particular case, I'm I've been left behind a little bit, and it's a shame. There's so much stuff I liked about it. If this gets enough interest and other people want to read it, I will check out issue 2, but I'm not going to go out my way on it, because I did need a little bit more from the characters for this one. But that's just my own take on it, shall we say. And that's it for now. Look after you, everyone. Stay safe.